How's it going, everybody? So, for today, I'm going to speak about the effects of technology, specifically with our youth. Okay, so just my opinion on this topic. I think it's a very actually important topic to speak about. Generally, from the aspect of their thinking capabilities, right? So, if we look at their thinking capabilities are being diluted. What I mean by it's being diluted is that it's being diluted in the sense that their framework of thinking is being directed to a certain way that the media and all these big companies want them to are directing their thinking. Generally, growing up when I was a lot younger, elementary school and the like, most of my youth was spent outdoors. And reflecting back over this, I realized that it's very important to have our youth away from their phones and more outside, in nature and, interacting with other kids, playing outdoors especially. The reason being is because it allows them to actually observe everything outdoors, see the systems that God has created, and really reflect and think. Most importantly, to develop the precursor for our thinking capabilities for the future and what's ahead for us in life. I think this is one of the most important things, actually, considering that humans are the only creatures that have the capabilities of thinking and being able to decision make what's right and what's wrong. I feel like, considering that, considering that the media pushes a lot of what we see today, I'm just going to speak the truth. And, one thing that in marketing that we know of is that, supposedly that sex sells, right? So a lot of times you'll see advertisements with a guy, or a lady that's barely wearing any clothes, that's very attractive and whatnot. That's alongside with for instance, some type of product or service or whatever it may be, and this way it associates that stimulus, so which is a good feeling or a pleasurable feeling, some type of dopamine release, I would want to say, and with that certain product or service. So this way, next time you feel good or whatever it may be, you may think of that. It may be a trigger for you to think of that certain product or whatever. This is a very common thing that happens, as we all know. I think the main thing that we need to do with so this is obviously the problem that we know of. Essentially I can talk about all the problems, but I think more importantly what we should talk about is the solutions, potential solutions to this. So I think there's different degrees of which our youth are currently in. So what I mean by different degrees is that I can be very addicted to my phone and not even look up and just keep my head down all day, or I can only be on my phone XML, or just choose when I want to be on my phone or not. So I think there's different degrees that our youth are in. I think more importantly, what we first need to do is we need to classify what degree each person is in, as far as how so addicted they are to their technology and to their phone. And then this way we can come up with like a personalized solution on what we should do to try to fix that problem. I think for the I think the best answer to all of them, like if I wanted to try to come up with a one solution fix for the whole thing, would generally to be reflecting over what the Prophet ﷺ said, is that to surround yourself basically with good people, and that whoever you surround yourself with is like as if you walked into a fragrance store. If I'm surrounding myself with bad people or people that are gonna bring me lower, then I'm gonna smell bad leaving them. And if I hang around basically with people that are good and that are gonna bring me up, I'm gonna smell good leaving them. When I leave them, rather. So I think that's the most important thing. And then among other things are, to see where they're actually spending most of their time. So as a marketer, what we do generally is the first step throughout the customer journey is to gain awareness, right? So there's multiple phases throughout the customer journey. And the customer journey is basically all the different steps that potential customer might take online. So where are they first? Where are they second? Where are they third? Where are they fourth? Where are they fifth? Until they go down the journey and they end up purchasing that product or that service. And then how can we keep them as a customer? So essentially the first question that we would want to ask is, where are they first spending their time? And then where are they spending their time next? So where does that initial first that first interaction of what they're doing, where does that take them next? And then where does that take them? Then where does that take them? Then where does that take them? So I mean, as humans, right? As we know in psychology, our day to day is basically composed of a bunch of habits. So considering that being the case, we can also understand that basically our online activity is also compiled of a bunch of habits that we generally do on a regular basis. So I mean, to be able to do that, you would have to be on the opposite side of the spectrum. Considering, like, if you wanted to help out the youth, you would have to have access to all this data, and to be able to analyze all this data to make a comprehensive decision on what steps solutions need to be done, which of course there is a lot of available data, free and paid data, that you can access online easily. If you guys want me to reference where you guys can access the data, just let me know in the comments or whatever it may be, and I'll add it to the bio, or I'll add it to the description rather. But I mean, generally, let's say we didn't have access to that data. So I mean, the first thing that I would say is, like, what are their interests, right? So like, are they spending their time on video games or whatever? And then I would personally, if I was their parent or whatever it may be, I would actually play that game. I would play that game and put myself in their shoes, because the thing is, if I put myself in their shoes, it provides me with it'll help provide me with better capabilities to think like they think. And the thing is, if I understand how they think and what they're actually going through, instead of like, being from the outside perspective of it, then then generally I'll be able to provide better solutions without attacking them, right? Because I feel like a lot of times we tend to attack them and tell them, of course they know that they're not supposed to be playing that game, or they're not supposed to be spending a lot of this time on that certain activity. So we end up yelling at them or whatever it may be, instead of actually putting ourselves in their shoes and really understanding their problem that they're also trying to get out of, right? I mean, they may like it, but they may actually not, but be addicted to it. And the reason why I'm saying addicted is because these companies, like the gaming companies and the advertising companies and all that, they literally have teams and teams of psychologists and sociologists and human behavior specialists, that basically their main job is to get you addicted to that game, because that game or that product or whatever it may be, because of future purchases, and you know, for them to make money off of you spending time. So I mean, like, you know, to cut it, I can go on and on with this topic and go so many different directions, and if you guys want me to go into some type of specificity, of like, you know, a certain angle, just let me know, and I'll brush up on that and go into it a lot further. But from a broad perspective, you know, I would say that from a broad standpoint, I would generally say that what we need to realize is where we're actually spending our attention. So basically that's basically, you know, to put this whole thing into a nutshell and give you guys a little perspective on what they're actually doing. When I say they, I'm referring to companies, anybody that's trying to take our attention. So basically, all these companies and all these video games and all these different services and whatever it may be, they're literally, all of them are literally fighting for our attention. So basically, the fight is whoever can divert our attention from looking this way to looking this way wins, right? And becomes the biggest company and whatever it may be. So like, that's why you see basically that Facebook and Google and Apple, you know, they're basically winning the game at the moment, because they're able to divert our attention from here to here so easy, right? So I mean, that the thing is, you know, like, and the interesting thing is that if we really wanted to boycott something, or you know, really have an impact, the best way is to just disconnect from that certain thing, because our attention is worth everything to them. So I just want to leave you guys with that. You know, if you guys want me to go into further discussion or reflection on some type of angle, then just let me know, and give me feedback on this, and hopefully this goes well and I continue to go through with these videos and upload more of them. So that's another video, and see you soon.